Here in Brazil, sometimes you call a tradesman because they look the part.
Mm.
And so to the uninitiated, a guy holding a spanner is obviously a mechanic, you know, and another holding a monkey wrench is obviously a plumber.
Yeah.
Of course, only when they're on the job do you realize that the mechanic had obviously lent a spanner to a plumber, because the balls are up.
Yeah, I know where you go with this. Yes.
The same could be said about the current administration in the UK. I don't think I'd be talking out of school if I said that Angela Rayner is to big business as what Rachel from accounts reads is to economics. They might look the part, but when the pudding is being cooked, quite often it comes out only half baked, as the two ladies appear to be after they turn their hands to do the jobs. The latest individual effort is Rayner and her Employment Rights Bill, which, when you dig into it, brings out all the real reason why it was introduced, being masked by all the other items, which on the face of it might seem okay. But when you look at history, which because at her age, our Ange doesn't have a lot of it behind her, the penny drops, and you realize that many companies can easily go bust because of it. So let's look at the changes Rayner's employment bill contains.
Yeah.
Point number one, strikes can be called if only 10% of the workforce agree. At
Okay.
the current stage, it's 50% plus one.
Yeah.
It's got to be a minority. With her, it only needs to be 10%. End of 0 hour contracts. Now, to be honest, I'm a little torn on that one
Mm.
because on one hand, you have to be uh, waiting for the company to call you to do your job, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, you know, uh, you're free and easy.
Mm.
I used to go to a temporary employment agency,
Yeah.
and that's what gave me flexibility
Mm.
to do jobs like just on the weekends or just
Mm.
on nights
Yeah.
or just you know
Mm.
uh which basically is what zero hour contracts are, but on a
Yeah.
more casual scale, if
Yeah.
you like.
Yeah.
So I'm a little torn on that one. I don't really
Yeah.
know what to think.
I think a lot of us are on that one. Yes.
The right to claim unfair dismissal from day one. Right. So if you go to a company for a job and you are inept on your first day
Mm.
and the company sends you down the road, you can complain that you were unfairly dismissed.
Mm.
Right. So with this new
Yeah.
with
I
the
propose it. Yeah.
new proposal. Extra leave entitlement from day one,
Mm.
including 1 week bereavement leave. So if you use your granny card,
Mm.
right, and you can get a week off for that. So if you've got a football tournament like the World Cup, granny could die at the second half of the tournament,
Yeah.
and you got a week free to watch the rest of the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final.
Yeah.
But of course, the granny card can only be used twice,
Yeah.
depending on whose granny it is, right? More redundancy rules, which, if not met by the company, will have to pay the worker double redundancy pay. So they make the life more complicated for the company.
Yeah.
And if they trip up because of one small failure, uh, they have to pay twice as much to the person being made redundant,
Mm.
which can be quite costly. It
Yeah.
can bring a company down.
Getting onto that.
Sick pay from the first day sick. When
Okay.
I was in the UK, I used to think it was the first 3 days are your own,
Yeah.
right? But now they're saying that you're going to get paid from the first day, right? More flexible working, including working from home.
Okay, that's an
Surely
interesting one.
that would be depending on the company and what your role in the company is, and
Yeah.
it's a very individual thing. But you can't put that in the legislation that if that's open to everybody, and you're a central lathe worker, you can't work from home.
Mm,
But there you go.
well,
Automatic. This is it. This is what I think the kicker is. Automatic funding of the Labour Party. Now, before you had to opt in to make a contribution to the Labour Party.
yeah.
This thing that she wants to do, you have to opt out. Now you know that if you have to opt out,
Mm,
all your trade union bosses are going to know that you're not one of the gang,
yeah.
and all your work colleagues are going to know that you're one of the gang, and you could get blacklegged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been in this situation. I'll explain it in a minute. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, that is I think that number 8 is what is the real reason. It must be that the Labour Party is suffering a little bit financially. I don't know. Number 9, ministers will be able to bring companies to court even if the employees don't. So if an employee has been, I don't know, on a low wage,
Mm,
and a minister finds out, they can take the company to court, even though the employee is quite happy where he is, on this low wage. He doesn't really want to do anything about it.
okay. Yes. Mm,
For example,
yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure that there are a lot of other ones as well.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. I mean, it's
This is a good one. The equality action plans. Companies have to produce an annual report on how they will close the gender pay gap and support employees going through the menopause. Now, this is interesting because Sarah Dye from the Norfolk Constabulary sued her bosses because she claimed that because she was menopausal, she suffered from smelly sweats and brain fog. So she applied to work from home.
mm,
Uh, they declined.
yeah.
Many colleagues doubted her claims.
Mm,
Even some of the police dogs who didn't pick up on the smelly sweats. If we could get a cat catch a whiff of it,
mm,
I imagine a police dog would be suffering and they're all happy with that. And so she sued because she was saying that she was being singled out,
mm,
but she lost the case.
yeah.
And it's funny that the legislation it doesn't mention andropause.
Mm,
Andropause is the male version
yeah.
of menopause
Mm,
because we men too have our moments.
yeah.
So the bill is currently in the House of Lords and it's set to come into force later this year,
Yeah.
spooking many a business owner.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Right. Okay. Well, this isn't a business bill, it's an anti-business bill. That's obvious. If I didn't know better, I'd almost say that we've got a socialist government or communist government trying to destroy free enterprise and business. I'm going to upfront say that. Um, okay. Um, I I yeah, I worked in industry like you did. Yeah. With regards to these requirements and everything, you always understood that you were on the 3-month probation. You had to perform and prove that you were the adequate person for that. Okay, that was your choice. If the company folded or something happened in that time, I'm afraid it's down to you. You make decisions. Um, I'm, how can I put it? I'm I'm very bemused by some of these things. I had read some of it, and I thought I must admit I was going down the lists. I think yesterday or whenever it got left, and very very I stopped reading it because I didn't know at what point I wasn't meant to be taking it seriously anymore. Obviously, a lot of legislation was brought in with regards to union and the 50% or 50 plus 1, 51% to vote for a strike was brought in to make the unions more democratic. Yeah. There are times when workers were being used as political footballs or pawns in the game. That's why that was brought in. It wasn't that it actually made it. He actually made the decision to go on strike more democratic. It stopped lightning strikes and everything else. It wasn't exactly pro business. It was more pro worker.
Democracy.
Yeah. Um, it is also a requirement. Yeah, it became a requirement. And yeah, okay. As regards to contributions to the Labour Party, I opted out when I was last in a union about this payment. Yeah. Um, I had, yeah, I had to physically, I felt that I was contributing to a political party, disregards whether I agreed or disagreed with them. It would be my choice. I've always chosen not to be affiliated in any which way directly with any political movement. Yeah, that's my personal choice. I don't give a sub to anyone. I don't give a donation to any political party. Yeah, I might have done things to help one or the others on occasions, being evenly spread on that, and I'll vote. Yeah. Um, yeah, people should have that choice. So again, the opt-out came into legislation some years ago. That it was automatic before, and you opted out. Now I believe it's now you opt in. You can tick the box and opt in. Yeah. And lots of people. I didn't even know I was contributing for a long time, to be quite honest. Yeah. I'm not saying that unions don't have their place. Absolutely, unions have their place. My contribution to the union was my monthly sub. Yeah. That unions can provide me with legal representation I couldn't afford on my own and rights, etc. Yeah. So I don't disagree with the idea of a union. I
The,
disagree with
po-
the union. Yeah.
the point of the union is to be the breach between the
Yeah.
employer
Exactly.
and the employee.
Yeah. And
Unfortunately, many unions have gone further from their purview
yeah. Well.
and started to get involved politically
Mm,
with things that have absolutely nothing to do
mm,
with the jobs that their employees are doing.
yeah. Well, I agree. And that was happening in the 80s, let alone now.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
yeah. And this is the problem. Yeah, you give people some power and they start going, oh, I can use my influence on this, that, and the other. Yeah. I mean, unions were there, and there have been times I've consulted a union about matters. I've been told, well, you haven't got really leg to stand on, but keep us informed. Okay. And to be quite honest, it was a fair, it was a fair thing, but it made the union aware of something that was going on, making it quite clear that I was not, yeah, one of the brothers, as it were, if you put it like that way, sick day from the first day. I think that used to work. Yeah, the first 3 days, I believe, was it company and the government would take over paying after that. I believe that's how that used to work. Yeah. Um, well, now they're going to make it so the company pay from the first day, day one. Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay, sick pay abuse and everything else. It used to be, yeah, you did 5 days and you needed a sick note from your doctor. Yeah. And even some companies wouldn't always accept that. Yeah. Or they'd send you to the company quack, as we used to call it. Yeah, the company doctor. Yeah. Um,
I think
it.
you saying that, it just made me think that the World Cup tournament, I mean, the first half you can throw a sickie
Mm,
and spend a week on the sick.
yeah.
The second half, Granny can die, and you get your other week in, so
Mm.
you can watch the whole caboodle.
Well,
Come back
um,
going 4 years.
yeah. I mean, I really can't understand what these proposals are. The long list of it, and I would say it's not particularly business friendly. Now, the idea now they say they want people off benefits. Her boss has been going around saying, "I want people to be self-sufficient, have employment, etc., etc., etc." And now he's got, um, whether with his blessing or not, Rayner, who probably has a more extreme agenda than Starmer has, even, is now
It's,
proposing these.
it's,
Has she?
it isn't only her dresses that are red.
I dread to think what else is read on her. You say she hasn't got much experience behind her. I'm not going there. Yeah, certainly not with business. Um, yeah, I mean, I was listening to the list, and I'm thinking, well, this is actually going back on legislation that was proved unbusiness friendly many years ago, was killing business in the 70s.
That's right.
The unions were taking over. And
Which was exactly my point.
yeah,
Because she's not all that old,
mm,
she won't remember what it's like in the 70s.
no,
I mean, she might have been a small kid in the 70s like me,
mm,
but we weren't aware. Excuse me, but we
mm,
weren't aware
no,
of, all the bad that was going on in the country.
no. You wouldn't. I mean, yeah. Even I remember the the power cuts and everything else, the strikes happening.
But we took that in our stride because we were
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
and more of a game that we lit the candles and all that,
yeah, yeah,
and she, as the adult that she is now in terms of age, she won't have remembered all of that. And
mm,
if she had to do it herself now,
mm.
then she would get pissed off.